So Sacramento State has become one of our favorite punching bags. And for good reason. They just keep lobbing them up for us to keep hitting them. They keep lobbing up softballs. And more details have come out about their financial agreement with the Mid-American Conference to join that conference as a football-only member.
Yeah, it keeps getting worse because, like, first it was, we'll pay $10 million to the MAC, and, you know, they're going to pay the $5 million to the NCAA. So, like, a week and a half ago or whatever it was, I sent out a tweet saying, yeah, $15 million is a wild amount to pay to be a California-based, you know, school in the MAC. And it wasn't about whether being in the MAC is worth it. Like, if they were situated in the middle of Ohio, it would have made at least a little more sense. But
you know what? It's almost as if the MAC knew that that Sacramento State took runs at both the Mountain West and the Pac-12, and they got turned down. And they were losing Northern Illinois, so this is maybe a backfill opportunity.
Yeah.
They're desperate. We got a spot for them.
But
let's see what we can get out of them.
I don't think
in the process.
I don't think the MAC actually wanted Sacramento State. I don't think they approached them. I don't think
we'll give you $10 million. North Dakota State goes to the Mountain West for 12.5. Okay, well, 12.5. No. Yeah. How about 15? Nope. How about this? We'll go up to 18.
Yeah.
What if we cover all your travel costs to go to California? Here's a big pile of money we will pay just to get inclusion.
Yeah.
And how do you, if you're the MAC, how do you turn that down?
Yeah, you don't. Like, with the MAC, I applaud the MAC. Good job.
Yes.
You done fleeced.
You don't have to give any of your conference distributions. You keep all of your media revenue.
Yeah. You basically get $20 million. Again, I was doing some napkin math and also trying to estimate what travel costs were for a typical MAC team to go to California for a road game. And assuming 4 road games a year for the MAC schools, you're looking at somewhere around 22 on the maybe 20 million on the low end, like 24 million on the high end, that the MAC teams are just getting for Sacramento State to come into the conference. And that's money that they can use to build their programs, refurbish facilities, a bunch of stuff
NIL.
NIL, like stuff that lower budget teams have struggled to be able to, they haven't been able to use that kind of money.
This is a massive windfall for those
schools.
schools.
The MAC, on the one hand, I applaud you. On the second, I'm calling like everyone in the government in charge of investigating like fraud and like, or not so much fraud, but like extortion. Like basically anybody that you would call to report the crime of extortion, blackmail, anything like that. Because my goodness, the MAC just basically used and abused a desperate old man over there in Sacramento
Stole
State.
His savings and his lunch. But
the unfortunate thing is that they didn't steal, again, the AD or the president's own money. They're throwing around taxpayers' money, not to get political here.
And
but
student fees.
Yeah, student fees, where they are heavily subsidized by student fees. Kind of like James Madison, who, holy cow, they raise like $40 million in student fees per year. But like, they're using other people's money to aggrandize themselves, to say, we're the team that brought Sacramento State into FBS. But my goodness, you are spending an entire season's budget, essentially, to go be in the MAC and not make any money off of it for half a decade. Like, it was questionable when SMU did it to go to the ACC, where at least if the ACC sticks together, they can make up the money lost in like 5 or 10 years of when they finally get those distributions. Sacramento State will spend potentially as much as $30 million over the next 5 years paying off the MAC, paying the NCAA, and paying teams to come to Sacramento State, conference opponents. They are putting money in the pockets of their opponents that they have to then go beat because, and they're adding resources to their opponents. And you're telling me that's going to end well? For a team that I think has a losing record in FCS over the last 3 years.
Right. This is not North Dakota State. Yeah. This is not a team that has momentum on their side, who understands winning.
Yeah, like they brag about their 3 WAC titles in the last 6 years, but those are like the 3 good seasons they've had ever. And again, they have a losing record since doing that.
So the university president, who has been everywhere, and I really struggled to listen to this guy. He's very much a big talker. And in an interview with the Yahoo Sports, They asked him, why do all this? Why commit to do all this? And he said, quote, "It is putting the university on the map," close quote. Like what map exactly do you think you're putting yourself on?
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. Like as I said, these guys are big talkers. A few years ago, they were making noise with all this money in NIL that they could have available, yet they have a crap football stadium and they're not big enough. And like, if they have those resources, why aren't they investing it in their facilities that would make somebody want to invite them? So anyway, they've been throwing out a lot of funny numbers for the last few years. Here's another one that he threw out. This president, apparently he commissioned a consulting firm to generate the economic impact of 5 years in FBS. Have you seen this figure, Jason?
I have not.
He claims that it produced a $975 million figure to the Sacramento area, roughly $250 million annually. There's no way on God's green earth that Sacramento was going to earn $250 million annually just because they made the move from FCS to FBS.
Yeah, there is a certain 8-letter word that rhymes with pit that I really want to say on air, but that I will probably get fired for saying it.
This guy
because that guy is so full of bovine feces that, like, you cannot. Like, is that the same person who was valuing the Pac-12 media deal like $50 million or whatever? That economist or whoever it was, the same person to, basically break up the Pac-12 because they way overestimated their media valuation. Like, I know that he's like in Cameron Walker was doing this when he was proposing to raise student fees. This whole bigger, more exposure, and it makes your degrees worth more money, and that's why we should continue to financially exploit the students and raise their student fees so that we can have bigger salaries for the players, and the students get none of the benefit. We're going to raise your student fees to raise the student athlete experience, so you get to pay more so that somebody else can enjoy their time at the university. And Sacramento State is essentially going to be doing the same thing. They're raising the quality of life of a couple hundred students at the expense of literally everybody else, and certainly not their own personal expense, but they're trying to build their legacy as someone who moved a team to the FBS and are willing to sell out thousands of young Americans and their financial future and the value of their degree. Because again, what's going to happen if and perhaps when Sacramento State goes and becomes, has the same record as Kent State's had these last 5 years? What happens when we're 5 years down the line, Sacramento State has finally finished paying off the $30 million that they owe to everybody for this move, and in those 5 years, they've won 8 games? Is that going to put Sacramento State on the map? The only people who are going to know who Sacramento State is are the people that use them in the NCAA football game to actually build them into a respectable program.
The bottom 10 rankings that usually come out. Here's some other things where this president is drinking the wrong flavored Kool-Aid. He says most of the MAC and FBS entry fees will originate from football program revenues. Again, he's selling stuff that he doesn't have right to.
Okay, to talk about revenues, to interject this real quick. Context. Sacramento State pulled in less than $1 million in ticket sales and corporate sponsorships last year.
Yeah, it's all on the backs of university subsidies and student fees. But we're going to make all these revenues because now we're FBS. But to further that, he says specifically the cash accrued from non-conference buy games against FBS and Power League programs. Football will pay the fees for football's move, he says. Like, are you going to schedule 3 buy games a year? Because that's about what you're going to have to do to afford this mess.
Yeah, you're basically going to be playing your entire non-conference.
And you're good luck finding that many games because power conferences aren't going to schedule that many games.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA and USC will probably maybe be willing to pay them, but the problem is that when they're in FBS, they're not as willing to pay them. And to be honest, they'll probably pay them less because they're going to be an FBS team where the most you're going to make is like $1 million. Like, they could max out at about $4.5 million a year. And that's if you play 4 power conference teams in your entire non-conference, or maybe 3 that are paying you like 1.2, 1.3 million. So you'll max out at $4 million that you'll bring in. And most of that money is going to go toward paying off, all the money, and you're not going to get to bring that into any of your yearly revenues.
Oh, no, but Jason, they have plans. They're more than just all this money they're willing to pay to the MAC to make this happen. They have plans to modify their stadium. They want to create a new visiting locker room, visiting suites for the opponent's administration, additional end zone seating, video boards. Like, where is this secret stash of cash that Sacramento State has been hiding all these years, and why haven't they been doing anything with it until now?
Yeah, I'll tell you, a much more effective use of all that money would just put it in my bank account. I can do more with that money than you can. Like that, you're basically just burning a bunch of money so that Sacramento State can go 3-5 in the MAC every year. Like, that's really what we're talking about, is a team that is thousands of miles away from their conference, go be mediocre in that conference, and just spend, all for a state school in the middle of California that nobody cares about. People barely manage to care about USC and UCLA. You think Sacramento State is generating any sort of economic benefit? Like, San Jose State is a bigger draw in the state of California for athletics than Sacramento State is, and will probably remain so for the long term.
Here's one more quote, and we'll move off of this, but there's just too many of these that just either eye rollers and make me laugh. Again, this is from the university president who did this interview. He says, there were many who fought tooth and nail to make sure this didn't happen. We had many people rooting against us. Despite all the odds, we did something that hasn't been done in 57 years. It's historic. People weren't rooting against you because they wanted to hold you down. People were just like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to afford this? You're talking a big game, but where's the actual money? Like, if they legitimately had that money and they legitimately were already starting on plans to renovate and expand their stadium, and if they were paying their players, like doing all these steps, it would indicate, yes, they have the money they say they have, then okay, good luck. Best wishes on finding a new home. But they have been nothing but talk this whole time, and they have nothing to show for it. I mean, they got an invitation, but they are, as we said earlier on, they are writing checks they cannot cash.
Yeah, and they're writing checks that other people have to cash, which is the worst kind of person.
Yeah,
is people that play with other people's money and do so irresponsibly. And yeah, I'm not rooting against Sacramento State. To be honest, I'm rooting against their AD and president because they're the idiots in this equation. They're the people who are behaving irresponsibly. They act like they're brave, but the people who puff out their chest and talk about how brave they are, they're the biggest cowards. So I didn't work against Sacramento State ever coming to FBS. If it's their choice. Again, they're using other people's money, and to be honest, it's not my money. So in the end, it's no skin off my back that Sacramento State's going to the MAC. It's just kind of, as you said, I'll say it a little more harshly. Nobody was rooting against you. Everyone just knows that you're stupid.
By the way, his comment about this is historic, something that hasn't been done in 57 years, that's referring to teams specifically on the West Coast who were FCS programs who moved up. That last time that happened was Fresno State and San Diego State back in 1969. So again, this guy's full of hot air, making all kinds of promises that he can't keep. So it'll be fun to watch how they continue to crash and burn when they make this move.
Yeah, one text real quick here, then we'll move on and finally talk about something else instead of raining on somebody else's parade. 8968 saying, when does it become apparent that college athletics can be way overrated and should be scaled back? Sacramento has definitely crossed the line. They have, and there's people that have brought up, like, apparently the California state school system apparently that's a mess. I know nothing about it, but they're bringing apparently that up where it's kind of a mess there.
Yeah.
So
where are these funds coming from?
Yeah, it's just a massive mess, and people being just financially irresponsible. But that's pretty typical for a government position.